Hi folks, it's Mike here, and this is my review of the Altra Mont Blanc Carbon. Nice dirty well-used shoe for you there. 267 Ks according to Strava on those shoes, so properly thoroughly tested. And this is the La Sportiva Prodigio Pro, 205 Ks on those according to Strava. Again, thoroughly tested by me, an over 60s runner. I do everything really, but basically I've done the World Masters Mountain Running Championships this year in Meduno in Italy and got a silver medal. I've done the European Off-Road Championships on Etna in Italy and got a silver medal. And I do a bit of road running, and I've got basically the fastest 5K so far in the UK this year for my age category, which is not too shabby. So basically, yeah, I'm sort of like fairly experienced runner, and basically I've been running now in my 60s for the last couple of years, having sort of given up a very sort of demanding career to just enjoy a bit more running. I'm going to talk about both of these shoes. They're both in the category of super lightweight trail shoes. Now, you could probably take both shoes up on a high altitude route and they both be pretty good. I think La Sportiva one would be sort of my second choice for high mountains, but probably my first choice, it was a bit muddier because it's got a bigger lug. So I'm going to talk about both shoes individually, and then I'm going to make you a comparison. And then what you'll find out at the end of this video is it comes down to personal preference, like many of these things do, but it's going to enable you to make an informed decision so that the shoe you buy is the right shoe for you. So you can't do this on weight because they weigh the same. I've had each shoe on a scale and each weighs just over 240 grams. So they both weigh the same. No advantage there. So it comes down to this. Look at the Altra. It's an Altra. The first thing to know about it is it's got zero drop. So the front of the shoe is 29mm. The heel of the shoe is 29mm. That's the depth of the midsole. So basically, when you put your foot in this shoe, it's like barefoot running, except you've got the 29mm padding across the shoe. In this particular Altra, you've also got a carbon plate, which wraps around your foot, which is in the midsole. Nice thing about that is it protects your foot from rocks. It gives the shoe a little bit of spring, but it's not like a super springy, technical carbon plate that's going to propel you along like a carbon road running race shoe would. The other thing about it is it's got a Vibram light based sole, which is a very tried and tested outsole, pretty grippy, reasonable on wear. These with, I say, 267 Ks on them, they're not worn too much at all. There's a 3.5mm lug there. There's a bit of wear on the outer of the shoe there, but you could probably do the same sort of mileage again. You might get 500 Ks out of these, but obviously by then your 3.5mm lug's going to be like a 2.5mm or 2mm lug, isn't it? So the thing about them is they've got a really wide toe box. All Altras have a wide toe box, but this particular Altra, the Mont Blanc Carbon, is narrower than most other Altras, which is a good thing because I've got a relatively slim foot. For me, that's better because, to be honest, if they're a bit any wider than that, they'd just be too wide. So I like the fact that they've got a little bit more of a snug fit, but they allow your big toe to be fairly straight. They don't pull the foot in, they don't pull the toe in. There's no sort of point of it at the front of the shoe. And I've found that's been a real plus I've discovered with Altras. They've got a little bit at the back here, so you can attach a gaiter. That was amazingly good in Etna because there was just little bits of pumice and gravel everywhere, and people were even stopping to empty their shoes if they didn't have gaiters. So yeah, you can buy some Montane gaiters, which are fairly cheap, and they'll just Velcro onto there because they have a corresponding bit of Velcro on them and notch into the front of the toe, and you've got everything you need there to keep the crud out of your shoes. Prodigio Pro, well, they're coming at it a different way. It is a fairly roomy shoe, but not as roomy. I'll come to that on size, but basically it's more of a pointy shape, and my big toe did rub a little bit when these shoes were new, on one side rather than the other. I don't know why. They do have a gaiter, but it's kind of built in, so that's quite a nice feature. But people are saying that the open weave allows very fine sanding if you run on very fine sand, which most people don't, so that's not really a problem. Main thing about it is, the big difference is it's got a 34mm heel. So 29, remember, in the Altra all the way through. Here, 34 versus 28, so it's got a 6mm drop between the toe and the heel. So it's a more conventional shoe. It's also quite springy. It's got quite a bouncy foam. It's got 4mm lugs, nice sort of frictiony, rubbery material. La Sportiva make climbing shoes, so you'd expect them to have a pretty good friction material, and this is, but very hard wearing. With 200 Ks done, there's hardly any noticeable wear on these. There is a little on the out of the shoe there, outside of that heel. But you know, that's pretty good. Again, I think you're going to get 500 Ks, possibly even more, out of the La Sportivas. So which one would you want to buy? The Sportivas feel more bouncy somehow. But when I do my runs, whichever of these pairs I take, it makes little difference to my actual time. So the Ultras might feel a little bit flatter, but I run exactly the same pace. So it doesn't really make much difference. I think that what it comes down to is, if you want a zero drop, if you're going to get an Altra rather than a Prodigio Pro. A bouncy shoe that's a bit more conventional, you might go for the La Sportiva. If you've got any sort of toe or foot issues, you're better off with the Altra, because that's a shoe that's specifically designed to give you a roominess for your toes. Price-wise, the Ultras have been out longer, and the recommended retail price on the site, on the Altra's site, is 220 quid. You wouldn't want to pay that, frankly. You can get them between 130 and 135 pounds now, particularly if you buy some of the less popular older colours. So that's a massive discount, and they're a pretty good bargain at that price for a shoe that's got a carbon plate in it of any sort. The Prodigio Pros are newer. Their retail RRP is 170, but you can get them for around 150. There's not much discounting on them. So really, when it comes down to it, there's probably an older style Altra, the same price point as the latest Prodigio Pro. And the Altra is probably, in some ways, a slightly technically superior shoe, although it's not for everybody. And if you really like bouncy shoes, or shoes that have got more of a feeling of energy about them, then you might prefer the Prodigio Pro. I think the only thing to say a little bit about now is sizing. Altras are, for me, are true to size. I'm a UK 9, bang on. I'm a UK 9 in most makes, and I'm pretty confident that I am whatever a UK 9 is, I am that. Now, if I looked on the box or the size chart for Prodigio Pros in UK 9, I'd buy a 43. But actually, I ended up buying a 43.5, because 43 in La Sportiva is just under 9, and 43.5 is about 9.25. So they're very small incremental sizes, because they're sizing them in European half sizes. So you can get spot on the size you want, but a particular European size doesn't correspond exactly with a UK size. So for me, because they're not that roomy a fit, I'd err on the side of going slightly up. So instead of a 43 for a 9, go for 43.5, and you'll get a 9 and a bit. It's not quite a 9.5, 43.5. And that's what I've done. So 43.5 shoe is right for me as a UK 9, and provides a slightly better, more roomy fit than would a 43. So that's all I want to say really about the shoes. Some people have asked me whether I've put some videos up about training. I recently did a talk for English Masters Athletics and Welsh Masters Athletics. A question and answer session in Shrewsbury a few weeks ago went down really well, and I would quite like to do something similar to give specific information for Masters athletes. I'm not sure about the term Masters, because of course it applies to women as well, women and men, all the over 40s, over 50s, over 60s, over 70s, who are active athletes or want to be active, running and competing. There's quite a lot to know, and a lot of it's very specific to those age groups. So we'll call them age group athletes, women or men. So if you want to know a bit more about that, if you're particularly interested in age group athletics, age group running, give me a follow, and I'll see if I can get some further videos together, hopefully maybe even involving some of my other elite age group runners, which will be also quite good. So thanks very much for watching. Until the next time, bye.